as we all know, the most important thing in our lives is women. Let's be real about it. Women business owners, our wives, the mothers, all of those things. And the most important part of it is the fact that we need to empower more women to be business owners. Get to do what they want to do on their terms, as opposed to always being second tier. So with that, we're going to bring Shayna Davis on. We're going to chat about that. We're going to chat about the power of women, how to empower more, what's going on in her world, obviously hit upon her podcast, everybody, as well as what she does every day to help us grow this industry as much as we can. So Shayna, without further ado, in the great city of Dallas, Texas, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. No BS.
Yeah. So if we get a little down into some squirrels and rabbit holes, I'll try to get us out. But hey, this is legitimately about being transparent
Yeah.
and bringing no bullshit to the real world. So let's start though with your journey and where you've come from to where you are now today.
Yeah. So you want all the way back, like
Let's
giving
go
thanks
back.
to God testimony, or you want me just to start at kind of the business world? So I'll start kind of in the middle. I went to school to be a therapist, not like a counseling type therapist, but like I went to school to be an occupational therapist. So I was in the rehabilitation world. We worked with, the physical therapist and the speech therapist. And shortly after graduation, I kept getting all these calls from like my therapy friends and these other companies like, come, have a contract with us, have a contract with us. And I was like, there's only one of me. And the last time I checked, there's only like so many hours in the day. Like, how am I supposed to like do all these contracts? And I'm saying this to, he was in physical therapy school at the time that I was in occupational therapy school. And I was like, I don't get it. Like, clearly there's something that I'm missing. And he was like, well, you don't see all of the patients. Like, you hire other therapists and you bill the companies, and then like you take the profit. And I was like, wait a minute, what? And he was like, legit, like you will send a therapist out, you will pay that therapist about $40 a visit, but you will bill the company $85 a visit. So that means that every time somebody sees a patient, they get $40, you get 45. I was like, oh yeah, sign me up, right? So why do I say that? I say all that to say that quickly after graduating from school to be a therapist, I ended up by default being a business owner. So then, quite naturally, you know how this thing works. People were coming to me like, how do you start a business? And how do you grow a business? Like, oh, maybe you should teach classes at the church, all the things. And so I was actually a business coach before I even knew that there was a such thing as coaching. Like, I always thought coaches were like just for sports or life coaches. Honestly, if I can be real, I thought it was like for people that just really didn't know what they wanted to do with their lives. So by default, they were just like, oh, I'm going to coach people. Like, if we're going to be transparent, I thought it was foo-foo. I thought it was for people that really had no direction or didn't have anything else to fall back on. So speeding up the process, after being a business coach, I started, to get into more leadership stuff. I accepted a calling to ministry in 2018. And what I realized, to fast forward to where I am now, especially for women, far too many of us have visibility, but we don't have profitability. And so I just looked at like, no, like for years, I was teaching business owners like how to get corporate contracts, how to get corporate sponsors, like not stepping over dollars to get to dimes. And I just decided, and I think I told you this, like it was only a couple of years ago that I just went all in on women. I never wanted to be the brand that was just for women or were just for Black people or just for whatever. I wanted to be like, no, not like it's for anybody and everybody. But I never wanted to focus just on a particular gender or just on a particular race. But then I was looking around me and I'm like, all these women are seen, but they're not paid. They're not paid well enough anyway. And so that fast forwards to kind of where we are now, of me really figuring out how I can help women turn their visibility into profitability. How can they turn their influence, into a lasting legacy? So that's kind of the fast forward version of 2004 to now.
To now.
Dang, I'm old.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
Wait a minute. Like, that's only one sliver of my adult life. And that just went from 2004 to now 2025. Yeah, I'm up there.
Yeah, it is a chunk though. I
I
mean,
know it's a big chunk. That's a long time.
that's a long time. A lot of has happened in that time period too. Let's hit to that a little more so, because we had discussed hyper focusing or niching down, whatever terms are out there to do so. Because
Yeah.
I did the same thing a couple years ago as well. Before that, what made you not do that, right? What made you not want to focus on women or minorities? What made you go, hey, I'm open to everybody? Have you
Yeah.
really got deep rooted into that and figured that out?
I did. What I've learned is that regardless of how you position yourself and regardless of how you want, you naturally attract what you are. So if you're a Black woman, the bulk of your audience is likely to be Black women. If you're a white man, like it's not uncommon for your audience to mirror you. But if I can just keep it all the way real, I was disappointed with the rooms that were full of Black women. I was disappointed with the rooms that were full of Black people. Why? Because I didn't see the level of commitment. I didn't see the level of growth. And I doggone sure didn't see the level of outcomes that I was seeing in some of the other rooms. And so I said two things to myself, whether it was right or wrong. I said, number one, I want to become more comfortable with the fact that most of the rooms that I'm in that are really growing me, that there's only two or three of me, like I don't even care anymore. And I'm going to go to the places that are going to help me become more. And if it looks like this and it doesn't look like that, I don't want anything to do with that, even though that's who I am. Like, even though I'm a woman, even though I'm a Black woman, I don't want to be in circles that seem like there is a lack of commitment to excellence and that there's a lack of commitment to growth. And by default, I thought, well, then I guess that also means I need to be very intentional about building something that is not just for us, because what if I'm not the only person that has this level of perception about how we roll? Now, is that everybody? Absolutely not. So before you start sending me death threats and telling me like I'm a woman's worst enemy and all this other crap that I know some of you are thinking right now, it wasn't deep for me. It was just like, go where you can grow and then emulate what it is that you see where you're growing. And I just didn't want anything to do with people who were staying stuck, especially since I lived in raggedy Memphis, Tennessee. Sorry, Memphians, they get mad when you talk about how raggedy Memphis is.
It's
I
raggedy.
lived I lived in raggedy Memphis, Tennessee, and everything that I saw around me was regressive. I wanted nothing to do with us.
I think that's a common theme. It was the same thing for me, right? Like, one, yes, everything you said, plus where's the money go? Where's the money trail too
Yeah,
on top of it? And like, yeah, we're not all in it for money. I only bring people on who are badass, who care more about people than money. So
yeah,
let's, again, come at me if you need to, but we need to talk about the money in terms of there really isn't any money in Black society, minority society, women society, if you will, on the scale at which we are talking about and getting into those rooms. Those rooms that we are in are predominantly white males. So let's be real. It just is what it is. Now, are there regression things? Are there suppressive things that have caused these issues? 100%.
mhm,
But that's also the reason I didn't go so far into my niche as well, is because one, I've never seen really anyone like me. And when they were doing it, they weren't doing it for us. And so that cycle continues. And it was 23 for me. And when I got rid of my partnership, that I was like, nah, I got to get back to who I am and who I help, right? And got to be the one to at least try to lift them up into this space, into this world, and separate us from saying, oh, we're never going to be like them. We're going to do it our own way. Well, guess what has not worked since the bombing of Tulsa? Doing it our own way. It
yeah,
just hasn't. Like,
yeah.
obviously there is bits and pieces in there, but like it hasn't. So it's like someone needed to. And I was like, you know what? It's time. And that's why I chose as well.
Yeah. One of the things that you just said was, the fact that there were very few people that looked like you that were doing what it was that you wanted to do is part of the reason why I have now reached back and I am more committed. I still don't care what their race is, but the reason why I am doubling down and going all in on no, like my show is for women. Like men, there's nothing that I'm going to share here that you can't benefit from. But like I won't allow you to work with me personally or whatever. The reason why I doubled down because I did figure out how to make sure that I could get in those male dominated rooms. I did figure out how I could get the same level of checks that these white men were getting. And so I recognize it doesn't have to be this way, although the boogeyman in the room is the fact that historically it has been this way. And since I figured it out and there's nothing special about me, I didn't come from money. Now I didn't live in the van down by the river either. My family was relatively, middle class for the area that we lived in. I figured out and mastered how to do what the good old boys were doing. And so now I've just reached back and said, what if I just experiment with if more of us would get there if there were more examples? But I was okay with the fact of I'm going to show them what's possible and I'm going to show them the how to of how to get it. But it's going to be on them to be willing to adopt the mindset shift that they not want to just go, but they want to do what it takes to go. And so much of that is in here and in here and not, in what you can like articulate on paper. And I said, I'm gonna test it out. And if they don't want to go, then I'll be right back to whoever wants it, gonna get it. You know what I mean? Whoever wants to cut these checks, whoever wants to go is gonna get it. But I said, I just want to test it out and see if maybe we've gotten to a point where we're tired enough and we have a strong enough desire to want to see something different that I can get them to go. And thankfully, they're going and they're growing. So I'm
I,
glad I did. But I
I,
was willing to be like, I'm not so committed to just rocking with my women that if they decide that they don't want to go and they don't want to grow, I'm not gonna stay with them.
I wonder if that like time frame, because we both did it around the same time frame. I wonder if that mindset shift of like where we're at in society, those people just need that little push of
Maybe so.
someone to come in and say, I'm gonna show you the way, but you got to do work. Like
Yeah.
this is not easy. It's not a, you just don't win the lottery. Like this isn't like the hot tool girl. Like you're not going to make it quick like that. It's just not going to
Mhm.
happen. But I'm going to be with you and I'm going to show you how to grind to get to this, to wherever you want to go. Right. And we
Mhm.
all have different aspects of success and where we're at. I wonder if it just took that little like timing, but also just that like you either get on the ride or, bye.
It definitely may be, but I've always been a little bit ahead of my time. And for those of us that are unicorns, people talk about the significance of being ahead of the curve, but part of being ahead of the curve means that it's going to take the majority a lot longer to catch up, which means sometimes it can delay you getting the traction in the area that you really want to be. And so when I was growing up, so my parents separated when I was like 6 years old. My dad raised me. My dad had custody. My dad raised me. My mom had got me on Tuesdays and Fridays and paid him child support. Like that doesn't happen a lot, especially with a black man that's in his late 20s and has a daughter. Like you just in our community, that's not the norm. And so, and by doing that, I always spent a lot of time with my grandmother. And I was always told, like, you have an old soul, and you're gonna have to, when you get a man, he's gonna have to be older because he's gonna have to be more mature because you've always been a little bit ahead of your time. And so I think some of it is you're probably right. There are probably some things that people had to go through and they had to experience to be ready. But I think I've just recognized that in a lot of the things that I do, I'm just a little bit ahead of the curve, and I have to use that P word that I don't like, which is patience. And I have to be patient sometimes and wait for people to kind of catch the wave.
You just defined who I am. Everyone calls me that. Exactly what I don't like slowing down. I don't like
I
waiting for
know.
you to catch up to. You don't have to catch up to me. Like right, like my
Yeah.
brain. I'm going this way this fast. But can you be closer? Can you like at least be in the wagon or something and not
Yeah.
like behind the dust where you can't even see it?
Can you at least be in the water and not still on the shore, like where you haven't even gotten to the part where the sand is yet?
You're still on the grass. Like
You're
come
still in
on.
the grass or the concrete in the parking lot. Can we get a little? Can you be in the water, like where the water is coming up to your toes?
Exactly. Exactly. So, what's your day to day look like when you're helping these? I mean, I know. Hey, don't do that. Don't big eye me.
No day is the same. Like I've had 3 people just this week ask me, like, what's a typical day for you? I was like, what is this? What's a typical day? Like, what does that even mean? People have typical days.
Yeah, if you clock in 9 to 5, right? But what's your day to day look like, and where do you focus your energy, right? And I'm asking you as the business owner, the black woman business owner, is I'm
Yeah.
asking you like, what does your day to day look like in terms of what do you like to execute? Where do you like to see yourself?
Yeah. I'm actually glad that you asked this question the way you did, because I think we've been sold a myth that there's really a such thing as balance. And I don't believe in balance. I think balance is for ballerinas. I do believe in harmony, though. And that basically just means that I give attention to what needs attention now. Balance means that everything is going to get equal amounts of effort, resources, and attention all at one time. And if you're a parent, you know that if your child is sick, that's what gets your attention. And so as a business owner, it's very seasonal for me. It really depends on like my focus gets what it is that I'm growing right now. So I'm in the process of getting a traditional book deal. Nothing wrong with self-publishing. I've self-published for. I just know now is the time for me to get, we're on the No BS Wealth podcast, right? I
Yeah.
don't do anything that doesn't pay me anymore. I don't have to. You know what I mean? And when I say that, I don't mean that to be like, haughty or whatever, but I've paid my dues for a very long time. I've, spoken for free at places because you needed the logo placement. You needed the brand alignment. I've paid my dues. I've given back. I've done all of the things. And I'm grateful to say I'm at a space and place in my business, the depth of experience that I have now, that I don't have to do things for free anymore. And so if I'm going to put a work out into the world, like a book that I know is going to change people's lives, I believe that I should get paid to do so. And my own business coach says she performs so much better when she's paid well. So why am I saying that? I'm saying that right now I'm in the process of getting a traditional book deal. So a lot of my time is spent on what it takes to get a traditional book deal. I hate the industry. It's opaque. It's archaic. It's a bunch of donkeys, but you gotta play their rules. So the best way that I can answer that for you is it depends on what I'm focused on. If I am focused on launching something new, my time looks a lot different than if I've just launched it and I now have people in programs that that I have to work with. So it looks very different. Right now, it looks like get up in the morning, check my email, like the boring stuff, eat a banana because I eat a banana every morning. And then, there's some things that I just have to do because I have to get done, but then I immediately go into book mode, stop to cook dinner, and then I go into book mode again until sometimes 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning.
See, I can't do those late nights.
Yeah. I don't do early mornings though. Like, let's be real. Like, I don't wake up until I wake up.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's usually like between 7 or 7:30. I'm not laying around till 9.
That's
But
fair. My body gets me up at like 5. 5.
oh no. Oh no. I get mad if my husband turns over at 5. Like, lay still. Too early.
What you just said is vitally important though, in the way you answered it. Business owners, and I'm sure you have this stressor too. You have other things you need to be working on while doing the
Yeah.
book deal. Like, let's be real, it's not like you're like have everyone under the sun do everything so you could just focus, but that's still going on in your background. It's just allowing you to prioritize what needs to be addressed now, knowing that,
Yeah.
hey, I'm gonna get to that. I think in our society, nope, let me reword that. I know in our society, we do this instant gratification thing where things need to be turned around in 4 minutes. And as business owners, that's not viable for your business.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense if you want to actually grow. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck in the weeds doing those things every second of the day, never having the time to work on the book deal, never
Yeah.
having the time to go speak, to do content, to do podcasts, because you're so stuck on trying to turn whatever it is around in such a quick time. Also, I want you to go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I get so much done. I'm highly efficient and I'm highly productive. And people ask me all the time, like, how do you get so much done? And I say, I just do it. Like, I don't, like, I just do it. And here's the thing. I'm not one of those radical people that's like, and I never watch television and I never do this. Like, listen, I watch my reality TV. I watch television probably at least 4 days out of the week. So, but I just get done what needs to get done. And I think that there's excuses and reasons, and I just don't tolerate excuses, and I don't have excuses in my life, and I just get stuff done. So if that means that I have to stay up late to get something done, if that means I have to be super tired, if that means I have to put out something that was just good and wasn't perfect, I just get done what needs to get done, because I've always had a lot of irons in the fire. I don't just have my business. My husband and I are launching a church. I just helped him, promote a book. I'm helping him get speaking engagements. I have my podcast. Like, there's always a lot going on and a lot that has to be done. And I just do what needs to be done however that looks, and some days I get a lot of rest and some days I get none. It's just the name of the game.
Yeah, and I think that's the important part. Like you just said that you get rest. You do
Yeah.
have days where you just watch TV. Those are times where you need a reset. That's cool. But
Yeah.
the other times when you're full go, because if you do, you'll get way more done in that hour that you blocked off to do something. You'll
Yeah.
get it done in 15 minutes. And then you
Absolutely.
have, and just keep going. But I want to
Absolutely.
get back to this traditional book thing, right?
Okay.
Not a lot of people know the traditional book route
Yeah.
as much anymore because they all do self-publish and go that route. Talk us through what that means and kind of where you're at in that process, just to highlight it for our listeners.
Absolutely. So I want to talk about the difference between, there's three different types of publishing. There's self-publishing, there's traditional publishing, and then there's what's called hybrid or vanity publishing. And I think all of them have their place, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with any of them. There's advantages and disadvantages to both. Self-published just means that you're going to write the book, you're going to be responsible for the cover being designed, you're going to be responsible for the editing if you do any. Most self-published books, I'm like, there's no way anybody edited this because there's like all these typos and grammar errors or whatever. You're going to be responsible for getting it distributed, even if you put it on KDP with Amazon, and you're going to 100% be responsible for the marketing and all of the costs that are associated with all of that. Traditional publishing means that the company is going to pay you in advance to write the book. You're going to have access to their sales and marketing teams, their editors. You're going to have access to their cover designers, and they're going to distribute it for you. They're also going to help you sell it. Now, you still better have a platform in place. You still better have your own promotional plan, or else they won't work with you. But they absorb the cost. You get the bulk of the benefit, and there's major credibility that goes along with having a traditional published deal, and it can open up greater doors, bigger clients, better exposure. The hybrid or vanity is, it's a company that will do some of these things for you, but you have to pay them to do that. You either have to pay them directly to do it, or you pay them in what's called a book buyback, where they do these things for you, but you have to agree to buy, $10,000 worth of books or $20,000, worth of books. And so obviously self-publishing is easier to get to market. It takes less time, but it's all you. Traditional publishing, on average, it can take you 3 years. By the time that you find the agent, submit the proposal, they shop it around to a publisher says yes. By the time it takes them to produce the book, it may be 2 to 3 years before your actual book comes out, but somebody's paying you to write it. So when I get the deal, I won't have to be as focused on some other things that produce revenue, because I will have a 6-figure check. Now, everybody's not going to get 6 figures, but I'm positioned to do so. I will have a 6-figure check that is paying me to write the book. And then on the hybrid side, you just got somebody that's kind of sharing the exposure and the responsibility with you. Here's what I want people to know. Vanity and hybrid publishing is still self-publishing. So then what I have found, because I've used one of those types of companies in one of the 4 books that I wrote. They didn't do anything for me that I didn't do for myself in my other books, and I'll never do that again. So I will always either self-publish or traditional publish. I don't see the reason to pay somebody to do what I can do myself, or I can hire somebody on Fiverr and pay them $5. I just I don't understand that. And so I know some people that, hey, it is, do what you want to do if you don't have the time or the expertise or whatever. Just for me, I don't like paying people to do something that I can do for myself. So I'm either going to do it myself, or I'm going to let somebody pay me to do it. But I'm not paying somebody to do it for me.
Yeah.
That's just my own personal philosophy.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with any of them, though.
That goes for all PR and stuff like that too. Like, I don't like to pay to play stuff because I can do it.
No.
If I can do it, there's no need to pay you to do it.
Correct. And I've done that too. Like I started off like having a PR company or whatever. And I was like, first of all, I read your pitch. It wasn't even good. You know what I mean? Like, communication is just a gift of mine. And I was like, okay, I know how to pitch. Why am I going to pay you to pitch? The only time that I have done that is when I've worked with someone that they had the relationships that I didn't have. And some of those people won't pay attention if you're not being pitched by somebody that they have the relationship with. And it doesn't matter how great my pitch is, they don't say yes in that way. So I have done it, that way one time. But outside of that, I'm like, no, I know how to pitch. Nobody can pitch me better than me.
No, you're really buying relationships at that point. Like, and that's
Yeah.
that's a
And that's fine too. And there's a place for that too.
absolutely, absolutely. So we've ran all the way through that. The one thing we haven't talked about is your podcast.
Yeah.
So lay it on us.
Yeah. So the name of my podcast is called The Influence Economy. And most people are like, oh, that's cool. What does that mean? So the influence economy is where your visibility intersects with intention and it creates tangible results like life-changing income, lasting legacy, and shaping an industry. And it's really about recognizing that your influence is currency, especially for women. Like influence is the new currency for women. But the problem is that we haven't been taught how to be strategic about it. We haven't been taught to treat our currency like a valuable asset. And as a result of that, we're not getting a return on investment. We may be visible, but we're not necessarily profitable. And I was there. I was on the cover of magazines. I was on the inside of magazines. I was on stages. I had celebrity clients. And so I was having influence, but my bank account did not match the level of influence that I had. So I know what it is to be visible and not be profitable. And so the influence economy is really about how do you turn that visibility into profitability? How do you turn that influence into life-changing income? And I teach a strategy that I call the high five. And the high five is corporate contracts, corporate sponsors, high paid speaking engagements, major media appearances, and traditional book deals. I don't believe that we should step over dollars to get to dimes if we don't have to. Most of the reason that I don't want to say settling. Most of the reason that we have dime opportunities is because there has not been someone to teach us how to get the dollar opportunities. And years ago, when I talked about being a business coach, I taught people how to land corporate contracts and corporate sponsorships. So now that we fast forward now and we live in this influencer world, and when I say influencer, I'm not talking about your IG influencers that have a different product that they're promoting, every week and a company is sharing them to do that. But what I am talking about is that if you are a person who is already impacting people through your expertise, through your skills, or through a message, then you have influence. Everybody has influence somewhere. I'm just teaching you how to take that influence and how to take that visibility and be intentional about it so that you can actually make life-changing income that is going to give you the life that you know you were born for. And so that's what the show's about. We share a lot of different strategies. A lot of times it's just me. Sometimes I do have guests on, and it's about, how do you win on your terms in the influence economy? Because I do believe that influence is the new currency.
Yeah. Description, check it out right now. Go ahead. You can move from, you don't have to listen to the rest of us. Just go now and go do it. That's fine. We're good with that. All right. As we end up towards the end of this, I always ask two questions. Okay. One's deep, one's could be deep.
Okay.
All right. So, what was your first money memory?
Ooh, my first money memory. My dad said I was always like wired to be an entrepreneur. I wish I was in my bedroom because I have a picture of I'm 6 years old and I'm sitting in front of, it was like this big wooden, I don't know, some kind of cable or something probably used to be wrapped around it, but I turned it on its side and made it a table. And I took the top of a board game and I flattened it out and I wrote yard sale on it. And just to show how much of a perfectionist I am, and I say I'm not a perfectionist, I'm just committed to excellence. All of my letters were in all caps except the A. So I crossed it out and then put a big A over the top of it because I was like, everything has to like be the same. And I had so much junk on there that that ever would want to buy, right? And no one bought it. But my dad was so in admiration of my commitment to what it is that I wanted to do that he bought every single thing on the table and actually paid more for it than what it was that I charged. So I think that when you ask like about a money memory, like I've made some great money in my life, but when I think back like memory wise, I can't help but to remember that situation.
Reflecting back on that feeling, right? Because joy and smile came through.
Yeah.
Think back through now, like you being an entrepreneur and all of that. How much of that 6-year-old girl is in all of that today?
Oh, she's in all of it. Like I was talkative, I was ambitious, I had ideas. I was always being told to sit down, like be quiet, be still, whatever. And I realized at a very young age that there is something about me that is different. And I couldn't articulate it or put my finger on it, but I knew that it was something that I should not allow to be squashed. Now, I didn't always go about it the right way. Like I was kicked out of school and always in school suspension and problem child, so much so that I think like my junior year of high school that my dad like hired a psychologist. Like something is wrong with this child. There's no way that this child is this smart but has this horrible of conduct. Something's got to be wrong with her. And so I didn't always know how to channel it properly, but there was always something about the way I thought and the way I did things that I knew was going to follow me through life.
That's hilarious. I did not picture you being the one getting, suspended and stuff like
Oh,
that.
I was bad. Listen, my senior year of high school, I organized the largest food fight that they probably have ever had in the United States of America. I planned it for 6 weeks.
That's impressive.
Oh, I had a whole planning committee and I had it all mapped out and I had who was going to buy what and how they were going to do it and where they were going to be placed. Oh, it was pretty badass. Now, I also got slammed to the floor and they wanted me to finish out the last few weeks of my senior year at an alternative school. So it didn't all end the way that I thought it would, but oh yeah, I was bad. I was always like,
You forgot to plan the exit and the exit strategy of how to get away without doing that. But hey, it was
well,
fun.
that's the part that I didn't care about. Like I've always I was always the kind of kid. The reason why I always got in so much trouble was because in my mind, although I knew there were consequences, I really didn't care. I don't even know it was so much that I didn't care as much as it was like, you can't make me do something that I don't want to do, regardless of what I know is going to happen as a result of it. And even that carries through to 47-year-old Shayna. I'm just a lot more refined now, I would like to think.
It's still in there though. That scene's still in
She's just right there.
Yep.
She's just right there. She's not like so far in my distant past. Like she's right there to the point that sometimes I have to tell her, I got this. Please sit down.
Please sit down.
Be quiet.
As we've gotten through that amazing story, what is one thing that you want to leave our audience with that they can take an actionable step today, like literally
Absolutely.
listening today, and start to take that next step forward in their lives? Because you and I both know we're here to help people.
Yeah.
The thing is, they need to be helped and they need to understand they're not alone. So what's that one thing they can take today?
The best advice that I can give you, because we talked about like, how do you take advantage of these more, these higher value activities? And it goes back to the conversation that we were talking about niching. I have a different perspective on niching because I'm always looking for mass market type of opportunities. So if you take myself, for example, I talked about like, people who are impacting people because they have a message, skills, or experience. I believe that if you have a message, experience, or skill set, that you should have a podcast. But a podcast without a business model is just a hobby. What I recommend that people do is they have their podcast at the center, but they build an ecosystem around their show of these high five opportunities. Because I started landing high five opportunities 15 years ago, but it's much easier now that I have a podcast. So this is something that everyone can implement today if they want these bigger opportunities. You have to think about your brand and you have to think about your expertise in broader themes. I call it an umbrella brand. So you have to ask yourself, so if I take myself, for example, I don't brand myself as a podcasting expert, even though my podcast is in the top 3% in the world, even though podcasting is central to the strategy that I teach, I position myself as an influence expert, not a podcast expert. Why? Because a podcasting expert, although it's just one way that I serve the arena, the Today Show is not bringing me in for that. A corporation is not bringing me in to teach somebody how to podcast. Now they could because they want their executives to be personal brands nowadays. But let me give you another example. Say you're a health coach and you teach women how to lose weight. Yeah, that's a great niche expertise, but what if you marketed yourself as total women's well-being? One is specific and one is scalable. So the assignment that I have for everyone that is listening, I want you to ask yourself, how can I package my area of expertise in a broader theme? Because that's going to make me attractive to major media. That's what's going to make me attractive for a corporation to pay me to come and speak or to do a workshop or even sometimes a 7-figure consulting deal. I literally just got off of a call with a mastermind group, and there was a woman in our group that submitted an RFP, which is a request for proposal, for just less than $1 million. Why? Because during this process, she stopped saying, I help women do X, Y, and Z. And she started looking at the broader scope of how she helps people. And now she's put in this proposal with a corporation on the West Coast. And through the 2 phases of her executing that is just less than $1 million. I'm not saying that you can't get to those types of amounts by being just a very small slivered niche, but it's going to be more difficult. You need to look at how do you give yourself mass market appeal. And that's the way that you do that, is by looking at your stuff in broader themes.
I love that. Absolutely love that.
Yeah.
And everyone take that to heart, right? I mean, as you're going through it, I was thinking the same thing. Like, you're not changing your niche. You're just broadening
It's just one way that I serve the arena. So my master arena is influence. One of the ways that I serve that is I teach women how to create $1 million multimedia empires with a podcast at the center. But that also means that it's Women's History Month right now in the month of March. A major media outlet could bring me on to teach, how does a woman own her voice? How does a woman own her influence? A corporation could bring me in to say, hey, how do my leaders use the visibility that they have and the influence that they have to drive more impact and make us more money. Like, I can serve my master arena in any way that I want to, but I won't be able to serve it in these other ways over here if I only focus on being a niche expert and not trying to be a mass market brand. And if you don't want that, that's fine. But if you're tired of stepping over dollars to get to dimes, and you're tired of having conversations with people that they would love to work with you, but they just can't afford it, then this is how you get to the point that you can really get your coins.
In order to do so, you need to communicate. This is what we ask all the time, is just reach out. The content we create, the conversations we have, you're not going to go anywhere unless you have that conversation. So take what you just learned from today's podcast and really reach out, whether it's DMing us or whatever you want to do on social media. I don't care. But in order for you to take that next step, you need to reach out. So without that, hey, I appreciate everything that you do, all the influence that you bring. And I cannot wait to chat a little more off topic, off camera a little bit about that. But
Can I give your audience a free gift? Can I give your audience a free gift?
Yeah, absolutely, you can.
So I have something that's called the Influence Economy Playbook, and it really starts to teach you how you can turn your visibility into profitability. And it consists of 3 different things. There's a playbook in there that has sophisticated strategies. There's a visibility checklist, and there's also a visibility ROI calculator that you can actually calculate the activities that you're doing to see if they're giving you a return on investment. And so they can get that at influenceeconomyplaybook.com. But the important thing is, put in the coupon code FREE, and then you don't have to pay for it.
You heard it. It's going to be in the description too. You heard it. So go get your free playbook right now. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you.